Harvard has reportedly lost over $1 billion due to the statement made by their president, Dr. Gay. That's actually her name. I know a lot of people are making fun of her over it, but that's her name. And Harvard is now refusing to remove her, despite the fact that she has made these, as many would say, shockingly offensive statements. But that's not the real scandal. The real scandal is that Harvard covered up a massive plagiarism scandal where this individual, Dr. Gay, actually plagiarized numerous times, and we have this here. They are willing to lose over $1 billion to defend this. Now, many people are saying this Harvard president is clearly a diversity hire, and I think we are getting an excellent window into wokeness right here, and that's why this story is so important. An individual who does not have the merits, who lied, cheated, and stole, reportedly, in order to get into positions of power, and is being actively defended by the institution, despite the fact they are clearly not fit to serve in this role, considering all the news that's come out, the loss of money, and the clear lack of capabilities. But this is the point. The capture of institutions is not about whether someone can actually do the job. It's about whether their politics align with their new cult-like religion. So we'll talk about that. Plus, we'll talk about that new Obama movie where they have this line. They say, "Don't trust white people," and everyone's up in arms about it. And apparently, it's a fairly woke film, and the main character is like some racist white lady. So we'll definitely get into that. And then there's a big debate happening online after a comic was produced by one of our favorite artists, G Prime 85, critical of gay men having children through surrogacy. This is resulting in a lot of drama among a lot of individuals and a big debate, which I think we'll definitely get into. And then, of course, we have a very interesting story about millennial women being the worst off since World War II compared to any other generation. So we'll get into that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to thebestsongever.com. Click pre-order on Amazon and buy the song now. It's coming out on Friday. This is our collaboration with Michael Knowles and Jeremy Boring. They wrote a song called Together Again, mocking the music industry. We made a cover in a modern style, mocking the music industry. And with this, we hope to give a big fat middle finger to the music industry, which has effectively told both the Daily Wire and Timcast to screw ourselves, even though all we did was make music. Now, the Daily Wire, of course, is making more movies. They did a song. We've made music, and we've had various outlets tell us to go F ourselves. I'm not kidding. Verbatim, go F yourself. An email that was sent to us. So we decided we're just going to mock them and be more successful. If you want to support us, you can pre-order the song right now. It'll be out on Friday. And if we sell enough of them, we'll chart on Billboard. And then we get to wag that Billboard charting song in front of all the faces of all the woke institutions that want to tell us to screw ourselves. But also, don't forget to go over to timcast.com, click join us to become a member, and just support our work directly. You'll also get access to our uncensored members-only shows. We're going to have one of those coming up for you tonight at 10 p.m. And you get access to our members-only Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals. And there's pre-shows, there's after-shows, a ton of really great content occurring on that Discord server. And also, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you really like it. Sharing the show is what helps the most. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is Daniel Turner.
Awesome to be here.
Welcome back.
Yes. Great to be here. Daniel Turner, Power of the Future, your favorite fossil fuel advocate in the world, and happy to be with you fine folks.
Yeah, so Power of the Future, you're basically calling out the lies from the
yes, and the green agenda, and we're the only ones not at COP28 right now. It seems like all the cool people, they're in week 3 of the big climate fest in Dubai.
Is that where they all fly in the private jets?
Exactly. Those of you who are listening who are like, we had a 2-day retreat in Tampa for my company. It's like, yeah, try 3 weeks in Dubai. You got to join the climate cult and you get to party like a rock star.
Yeah,
can you imagine how many
hookers
and cocaine is in Dubai?
Well, the funny thing is it's all illegal too, but if you're in the club.
Yeah, of course it is.
Right on. Well, thanks for hanging out. We got Luke Rudkowski.
Hey guys, my name's Luke Rudkowski here of wearechange.org. All the institutions are collapsing and it's absolutely beautiful to see. Today I am wearing my Irish Lives Matter t-shirt, a somewhat controversial statement that might get you investigated if you actually wear this in Ireland. That's why I made it a t-shirt that you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. There's actually 2 versions of this shirt. I'm wearing the members only shirt that I have to put tape over. It has another special message there that you could find out if you are a member of lukeunfiltered.com. And I'm going to reveal the message later, but that's one of the perks of many perks of directly supporting me on lukeunfiltered.com. Phil.
Hi.
Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. Very failed musician, anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Serge, how you doing, homie?
Doing well. Yourself?
Doing well. I just found out that we have 7 gold records now.
You have 7. You got another one?
Another one just went.
The
just
failures keep
officially-
stacking up.
Yeah, just
Nice.
officially went over today. So the full length overcome record went gold. So that's
Wow, congratulations.
7 gold records.
That's
pretty,
awesome, man.
Pretty
Wow.
awesome for a dude that yells at a stick for a living.
That's right.
You know.
And who is a failure?
Yeah, failure.
That's amazing. If
Yeah.
you're a failure, I don't know what the rest of us are.
Listen, I fail big. I fail big. That's how I do it. So.
Serge is here. Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, let's jump into the first story. We have this from Fox Business. The context is important. Harvard president's handling of anti-Semitism has cost the school more than $1 billion, according to Bill Ackman. Billionaire investor and influential Harvard alum Bill Ackman continued his push for his alma mater to terminate President Claudine Gay over the weekend, claiming her handling of anti-Semitism on campus since the October 7th terror attack by Hamas on Israel has cost the university more than $1 billion in donations. In a letter to Harvard's governing board of directors posted on the social media platform X on Sunday, Ackman argued Gay, quote, has done more damage to the reputation of the institution than any other individual in its nearly 500-year history, going through a litany of criticisms over her leadership, which he says has contributed to major donor withdrawals, significant gifts, withdrawing significant gifts that are adding up. Here's what's important. Let's break all this down because the articles themselves don't give you this context. USA Today says, Harvard President Claudine Gay to remain university leaders affirm support. This is somebody who right now, and we'll get into all the details, has been exposed as a plagiarist who should not be in this position, who does not have the merit, the skill, the capabilities. Many people are saying she's clearly a diversity hire. This is an individual that has failed in regards to the hearing before Congress, has resulted in a loss of over $1 billion. By any metric, this person should be fired.
Yeah.
They will not fire her. And why? Because the only actual metric Harvard cares about, are you woke? Are you a member of our religion? And if you are, nothing else matters. While the rest of us look to Harvard and think it's some higher education institution, one of the best, it's not. It's a church of the woke. And so the actual job description for this woman is to be a woke proselytizer. So when she's faced with mounting criticism, the board of directors and all these other people say, okay, what are they criticizing her about? Oh, she's costing us money. She's engaged in a plagiarism scandal. They actually covered up a major scandal. We'll get into that in a bit. And then they go, okay, but that's not her job description. Is she advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion? Yes, she's fine.
Yeah. It's remarkable to see this happening. Harvard still has $50 billion in their endowment, so I don't think they're hurting any way at all. But it's absolutely incredible to watch this play out in real time and wonder what is the purpose of this university, right? There was another study that came out today that Yale, the majority of the students at Yale all got A's last semester. Yeah. And you say, well, if everyone that gets A's, I mean, these universities don't really seem to have any sort of academic purpose. I like that
Church.
you liken them to a church. That's
It
the
is.
best way to put it.
You pay money.
And like a church, like if your parents are members, you become a member.
I would say they're more like a hedge fund with an indoctrination center, or even just a factory that produces the woke mind virus. But it's interesting to see them kind of eat themselves and attack themselves on this very divisive issue that is Israel, when for many years now, they were being very discriminatory. They were being very racist. They were violating the civil rights of individuals because of the way that they were born. And everyone was okay with that. Now that we have the conflict in Israel, people are like, okay, now we got to really have to deal with this issue, which I find very peculiar at this specific time.
I find it peculiar that
I'll take it. No, go ahead.
No, if you replaced Israel or anti-Semite with any other minority group, and this was the question facing the university president, it would be a different story. Can you have call for genocide against trans members on Harvard campus?
No.
If she did not stand up, if she didn't lie down in solidarity with a die-in on the quad, if she didn't forcefully condemn this before, she would have been fired within seconds.
But you can for white people that are technically a minority on the world's population, and then that's totally okay, 100%. And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But then Bill Ackman actually calls them out for this too. There are a lot of people that are like, oh, these wealthy billionaires didn't say anything when these universities were discriminating against white people and conservatives. But now that it's the Jews, they're coming out. And no, these billionaires actually are coming on saying like, we didn't realize. And you know what? I'll take it. Look, not everybody cares about what you care about. And there's a guy who's dumping tons of money to university, not paying attention. Then it affects something he cares about, Israel. I'm not going to get mad at that. I'm going to say, welcome to the fight. Yeah. Thank you for finally paying attention and calling this out. This is what made you. This is what impacted you. Okay, well, take a look at what everyone else is complaining about. Oh, we agree. Awesome. Let's win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was to your point, Tim. I was listening last night. You guys talk about Bud Light, and that's another example. When you have people that are looking, that have noticed that there is a problem that you have been making noise about, right? You don't attack them and say, oh, now, and push them away. You welcome them into the fold so that way you have more people on your side, because the whole point of the culture war is not to get rid of the people that disagree. And this was something that Jordan Peterson made this point about conservatives, the way that the left had been treating conservatives. What are you going to do with all the Donald Trump voters if you beat Donald Trump? They're still Americans, and that's something that we have here in the U.S. Most of the division, in my opinion, has been driven by the ideological left pumping out ideologically motivated people. And they have lied to your average Democrat, your average left-leaning liberal person. So they're still right-leaning because liberals are kind of right-leaning. The left is actually a totally different philosophy. So your average left-leaning liberal has been lied to and has been tricked into believing that woke is the continuation of the civil rights movement, which it is not. It is a totally different tradition.
It's the exact opposite of that transition, as it promotes discrimination against individuals for the way that they were born.
100%, absolutely, yes, and they're waking up to that, and we need to welcome them back into the America-loving liberal society that we all are looking to get back to. We talk about all the time. We talk about we want to get rid of the woke. We want to get rid of all this bad ideology. And now is a great opportunity to bring people back into the American mindset, where America is not always bad and that it's not always just dump on the liberal mindset.
Dave Portnoy announced he will not hire anybody from Harvard, MIT, or UPenn until these people are fired. He then said, "Good." I think he's pulled back on UPenn because they did have the board member and the president resign. But he specifically called her out and was like, "I'm not going to hire anybody. Your degree's worthless. Anybody who currently works for me." He was asked, "Did you have people applying?" He's like, "Well, I have people who work here now, but they're grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I will not hire you because of that degree."
James Lindsay was making a very similar argument, saying only then, when people stop hiring these people, is when we could have a big cultural difference here, because that degree won't matter anymore. That prestige won't mean anything anymore because they actually just shot themselves in the foot. Now, there's a lot of degrees of hypocrisy, especially when it comes to saying, yeah, you can hate on this group, you can't hate on this group. Oh, now we're in trouble for hating on this group. But still, I want to go back a little bit here. There's a lot of other individuals like Cassandra McDonald making the argument here, hey, we should also be careful because we still want to protect freedom of speech. What do you guys make of the argument here saying, hey, whatever these policies are, I don't care, freedom of speech still should be protected here. Is this freedom of speech, and should it be protected?
Dave Portnoy was asked about their stance, and he said, no, you should not be allowed to call for the genocide of a group of people. That's where you're getting into harm and violence, et cetera, et cetera. I disagree with him. I agree with his position that these people are hypocrites, they're liars, they're cheaters, they're thieves, and you should not hire people who are coming from these. I'm avoiding all of that. These are corrupt institutions. I suppose it depends on how long ago you were there or whatever. But no, I agree with what each and every one of these individuals said to a certain degree. They said the Constitution, the right of the individuals to have their opinion. If it's getting to the point where you're harassing an individual, that breaks the rules. I completely agree with that. What I don't agree with is that these people are lying and spitting in our faces. They scream no pronouns. You have to use our pronouns. They scream no fat phobia. They will ban you from campus. They will shut your speech down. And then the moment it comes to a call for genocide of the Jews, they all of a sudden say, "Oh, the Constitution." Yeah. And I'm like, you are right, the Constitution. Now screw yourself. I'm not defending you.
When are you going to make a fat phobia shirt? Because fat phobic lives matter too. Fat lives matter too. I don't know what we just have.
I have a different point of view. I have the exact opposite perspective.
I'm joking.
We might get in trouble here on YouTube if I express it.
It gets complicated because
I've saved that.
it gets complicated because the First Amendment clearly says Congress shall make no law. Right? Harvard is a private institution. It has its own laws, and that's why the Congresswoman Elise Stefanik asked a very good question. She didn't say it is a violation of free speech. She said, "Is it a violation of your code of ethics?" And as a private institution, it can make its own laws. And Harvard is a private institution saying calling for violence violates our code of ethics. Well, when you say Antifada from the river to the sea, you're calling for violence. So that's why it was really like connect the dots. Congresswoman Stefanik set her up perfectly to give a very good answer that was clear. All she did was unravel this cluster disaster of wokeness.
This is all awesome.
It was brilliant.
All of this, the story, everything. This is why it's the lead. Ladies and gentlemen, when Harvard this morning, when the news broke that they said unequivocally, we will not fire this woman, I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the message we want to share with everybody. They lie. They are hateful. They are racist. They are plagiarists. Your kids going to these schools will not be better off. They will be manipulated, indoctrinated. And when proof was there that this person should not have this job, they said, screw off.
Yeah. Remember when the NAACP sent out an announcement saying that no African Americans should go to Florida, right? They should just boycott
They
the
just
whole
did,
state of Florida.
Someone else an LGBT group just did that the other day. I saw it on Twitter. Same exact thing.
They're raising money to get people out who are gay or trans out of Florida.
Will someone
There's
do the same for Harvard?
Fundraiser.
Will the Anti-Defamation League, will Abe Foxman, will one of these Jewish groups start an actual boycott of Harvard to say we call on all Jews to boycott Harvard? Because clearly it is a danger. I mean, that was the NAACP's argument for Florida. You are endangering yourself if you go to this state. Well, clearly, if you're Jewish, you're endangering yourself if you go to Harvard.
I got to be honest. I'm not big on wanting to hire college graduates as it is. So I don't care if it's Harvard.
I didn't go to college.
Yeah, I don't care if it's Harvard or
if you go to the sciences, if you hire a college graduate that went to one of the hard sciences or that studied something real, but if you're just hiring someone,
they still teach them woke trash even in those sciences.
They have to. Yeah. I understand that, but that's something that we're gonna have. That's something that actually has to be addressed by culture, though, because you get people that go and they study them, they'll major in something, and then they'll minor in some kind of woke thing, and so that they're laying like a groundwork or at least a tertiary knowledge of the ins and outs of the woke ideology. And that's something that has to be changed by the nightly comedy shows, the late night shows, not reinforcing that stuff will do a lot.
Well, a lot of the woke stuff has a lot to do with the revisioning of capitalism. It also goes all the way back to David Rockefeller pushing a whole bunch of huge money into higher institutions of learning that he was able to influence, that of course undermines the very kind of capitalism that put him in the position of power that he was in, that of course he was manipulating and abusing for his own personal benefit. So this has roots going back many, many years ago, and now we're seeing the kind of formation of it, and it kind of just falling on its face right now with this Harvard kind of controversy, as now we are finally being exposed to the true kind of hatred and nature of this socialistic leftist brainwashing campaign that now finally is being called out.
There's one thing I want to. You mentioned James Lindsay a little while ago, and
we just had him on the show. That's why. We just had a conversation.
I'm a huge fan, and I mention him a lot, and I'm going to mention him again because right now the best thing about them allowing the president to stay at Harvard is it really shines a light on the fact that we are living in the logic of Herbert Marcuse's repressive tolerance. The argument made in that piece is that it's okay to do whatever you want if you're on the left, and the right must be suppressed at even the level of thinking right-wing thoughts. And to the left, at least on college campuses now, everyone that's not left of them is the right and must be censored and has to be shut down. So it's good to, like, I'm with Tim. I think this is good that they're standing behind her. It's good that she's not stepping down. It's good that Harvard is doing this, so that way it shines a light on it. Exactly. And so that way the American people can see, all right, we do have a real problem in the United States.
Now let's focus on MIT, that also has intelligence agency connections, and let's expose that whole larger problem.
Let me pull up this story from the New York Post. This is big news. It's breaking just a couple hours ago. Harvard covered up a secret plagiarism probe into President Claudine Gay during anti-Semitism storm.
Faking Gay.
Threatened the Post. So this is ongoing.
Yeah.
While this whole scandal, like before this stuff's going on, before Elise Stefanik question, sir, apparently she was being investigated for plagiarism. We have this huge thread from Aaron Siberium, who says, Chris Rufo's examples are just the tip of the iceberg. In 4 articles published between 93 and 2017, including her dissertation, Gay paraphrased or quoted almost 20 authors without proper attribution, in some cases lifting entire paragraphs verbatim. He's got the evidence right here.
Her dissertation began, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
I mean, look. This is a massive scandal where we are learning that the president of Harvard plagiarized her way through her dissertation for over 20 years. They know this. They knew this. They covered it up. She then makes shockingly offensive statements, and they refuse to fire her. New York Post reports.
It's great to be a leftist.
Yeah, that's right. You can do nothing. You can do no wrong. Hunter Biden, look at that. Harvard University covered up a high-level investigation into whether its controversial president was a plagiarist and used an expensive law firm to threaten the Post over our own probe. The college announced Tuesday morning that it investigated Claudine Gay over whether some of her academic work was plagiarized and had cleared her of breaching the college's standards for research misconduct. I will say it again. The only qualification for the job is that you are a member of the cult. And then everything else is irrelevant. She's a good cult member. She serves the cult. Should we fire her? Of course not. She's doing her job.
Yeah. All that matters is pushing the ideology. All that matters is pushing leftist. And that's what I was trying to talk about with like the NAACP calling for the boycott of Florida.
The best state in America.
All these institutions, all they do is push leftist ideas. Yeah. And when they come into clash with reality, if reality is not their leftist agenda, then reality gets pushed aside.
But even if they fire her, they're just going to replace her with someone just as bad.
Yeah.
The same kind of cult member that's going to be giving out that woke Kool-Aid, the same kind of individual that's going to be along the same lines. So I don't understand why they won't fire her and just replace her with a worse person and then kind of appease the mob that's trying to
because she's good at what she does as a priest of wokeness.
The sad thing is that as we're having this conversation, there is still a lovely patriotic, quote unquote, patriotic, no, I won't even quote unquote, patriotic American family that is sitting there with their 17-year-old daughter and they are plotting to get her into Harvard.
They're waiting for that letter being ooh, fingers crossed.
And they're doing all the essays and they hear about this, but they're like, but we have to get our daughter Prescott, Bookcase, whatever her name is, we have to get her into Harvard or Yale or Princeton or wherever.
So this is it right now.
That has to stop.
Everyone needs to refuse to work with people who have degrees from Harvard, MIT, and UPenn until they back down and the institutions are recaptured and dewokified. I don't even think, Portnoy was like, until they fired these individuals, I'm like, you got to root out the corruption. You got to grab the weed and pull it out by the roots. And so my attitude is, you want to apply to a job here, just don't put it on your resume.
Yeah, and it has to get to the point that anyone over a certain age, maybe Harvard 20 years ago was different. Who knows? Maybe it was exactly the same. But at a certain age now, if you meet someone under 30 who is very proud and they brag that they went to Harvard, their response has to be just pure laughter. It's like when your friend's like, I'm a huge Browns fan. And you're like, you're a Browns fan? Like, no offense to Browns fans, of course, as a Giants fan. Right. But it has to get that gut reaction of just laughter. Like, oh, you went to Harvard? Oh my God, please.
What did you learn?
Give
how
me
to
a break.
How to point out the different races in the room?
Exactly.
I'm looking for a guy who knows how to design a building.
Yeah.
Not how to criticize people based on their race. Next candidate, get out of my face.
Yeah, and I love the way that Dave Portnoy is doing that, and others are saying that. That's the best way to solve these problems is when the schools become unmarketable because of the product they create, and that is our own fault culturally as a nation. We have elevated these schools too well. I mean, he did go to MIT.
When all this stuff started, you had these Wall Street investors vowing to not hire any of these people. Instantly, the students who signed this document praising Hamas backtracked and apologized. And they're like, oh, geez, oh, no. And it's like, no, I'll take their apology. Thank you. Now, the institution, don't stand behind this stuff.
Yeah.
Except that if you go down this path, you lose. But the issue was, there was who was it? Some guy said, don't hold it against these students. They didn't even know what they signed. I'm like, oh, now I'm really going to hold it against them. You signed something without reading it? Wow, you are really dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hire you.
The plagiarism thing just is just further evidence of how corrupt these organizations are. But our own president plagiarized his thesis. He had to drop out of the presidential election in 1980 or 84 because of it.
He took JFK's speeches
and now
verbatim and literally said them as if they were his. And this was back in the day where, of course, you couldn't fact check everything right away immediately. But then news organizations literally took speeches of former presidents and then put it by Biden saying the same exact thing.
Yeah.
That's how much of a phony, that's how much of a fake he is. And that's how the entire institution is set up. It's propped up all on a bed of lies. And that's why they're so afraid of the truth coming out. That's why they're so afraid of independent media. And this is why I think this moment is so captivating right now, because it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for individuals being able to organize and talk to each other on social media. And this is now where their institutions that they controlled before are totally being called out, or totally being liquidated, or totally imploding. I love it. It's beautiful. I love seeing all of it happen, unfold right in front of me. And let's go. MIT. We need more controversy there immediately. Lots of very high intelligence figures coming from that institution as well that do some really, really shady stuff, especially when it comes to pushing a lot of psyops and cultural warfare on the American people.
And a lot of it being appropriated right now in Congress as they're talking about the reauthorization of FISA courts,
the surveillance courts, and spying on American citizens
right now is in real time.
MIT is essentially the playground of the intel agencies, and they're able to do a lot of really crazy stuff. And then this is not the only controversy that we have with these prestigious institutions. There's more here, folks. There's Epstein, who had an office at Harvard, who literally was able to have office hours and have a cozy relationship with all the young students, most of them, some of them prepubescent students that he had access to.
Harvard?
At Harvard.
You don't got prepubescent students at Harvard, dude.
I don't know. There's a lot of children that are also introduced that are like scholars and super smart as well.
Maybe like daycares or something.
Hey, that man, he's around 18-year-olds. That should be questionable, especially with Harvard giving him essentially his own office. Why did Jeffrey Epstein have his own office at Harvard? That should be the big issue. That should be the big controversy here. Not that she plagiarized everything. Let's get into the deep roots of how all these horrible institutions are doing some really awful things on another level that we don't even know about yet.
You think Epstein was woke?
I think that's a good question.
No, I think he was beyond woke. I think he was just evil incarnate. I don't even think woke has an agenda and an ideology that is trying to promote. He is just the devil.
Well, but I'm sure he was the kind of guy who was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
He was a leftist.
Yeah.
But he wasn't trying to push an agenda. He was just the devil.
I think that the one thing that we really are kind of glossing over is the fact that these institutions, this isn't new, and these institutions have been pushing people out, like every year after year after year after year. There are college graduates going into society that believe this stuff, right? If they minor in this stuff, they go into society and they believe this stuff, and they affect society. We have a crisis of competency coming in the United States and possibly in the broader West. And there are things that, like, if we lose the knowledge of how to do them, then we're going to have serious problems. Like, there's a whole complex world out there that needs to be maintained. Yeah. And if we're dumping out people that can't think, that aren't coming out of the highest, supposedly the highest universities that we have, if they can't think and they're not actually able to do the jobs that they're put into, these jobs have real world consequences. Yeah. I mean, there's the first thing that comes to my mind frequently is the fact that they're having problems filling the air traffic controllers. I don't think that you have to go to Harvard to be an air traffic controller, but you have to be smart and you have to be quick-witted and you have to be able to do the job. And you hear stories about, there's this accident that almost happened, or, this bad call or whatever, planes had to be waved off or whatever because of an error. Those kind of things are going to compound as we have more and more people being put into the labor market doing jobs that they're not qualified for.
Yeah,
and being hired only because of
exactly.
specific reasons of the way that they were born when they're not qualified for it. As of course the number of these traffic incidences, especially with airlines, has been going up dramatically.
Exactly.
As I'm now walking into the cockpit looking, who's my pilot?
But I think compounding that also is not just that they are poorly educated. Compounding is that they think They
Yeah.
are very well educated
Sure.
because they went to Harvard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they
And-
will tell you, like, look, I just took a semester, last semester I took a course on the Taylor Swift's latest album. I mean, that is an actual course.
Yeah.
And you want to say, like, how will that help you at all in life? I'm sure it's cool if you like Taylor Swift, but what the hell does that help you accomplish
It's all
in
degrowth.
life?
Yeah.
But,
I mean-
but they graduate thinking they are very smart.
It's all part of the degrowth agenda.
Yeah.
They want to reduce population. They want to reduce development. And if you take a person, you put them in an institutionalized learning facility for 24 years, and you have them major in folklore and mythology. I mean, at least that's more valuable than Taylor Swift. No offense. I mean, you can like Taylor Swift, but studying that, there's a lot of useless majors. And then you graduate and you go, I can't get a job now. What does that result in? Your failure. Why are young
you
people
go to Occupy Wall Street.
Young people are not having kids, and they often say it's because they can't afford it. That's not necessarily the reason, because most people can never afford it, and you got to figure it out. But a lot of these kids are saddled with debt. They can't pay rent, and it's because their degrees are nonsensical.
Yeah.
They have no real world skills to trade value.
Yeah, and there has to be. You hear so much about the growing mental health problem of young people. That has to contribute to a lot of mental health. If you are the best intentioned college graduate from Harvard and you did study human ecology and Taylor Swift and diversity and all that crap, but you're still a nice 22-year-old girl, and then you graduate and you have a useless degree with no skill set, no wonder why you have mental health problems, because you can't hold down a job. You aren't qualified for any job. You think you have this incredibly valuable Harvard degree. You have $300,000 worth of debt. Of course, that will lead to drug addiction problems, sexual addiction problems, gender confusion problems, because how miserable are you if you have gotten to this point where you're supposed to be entering into the world of adulthood and you're actually just proven to be an even greater child than when you started the entire process?
And now you're indebted and essentially a debt slave to the big banksters that, of course, you're going to have to now pay off with a horrible corporate job that you don't want to be working in, that you're going to end up for the rest of your life until you retire and then quickly die afterwards.
So you asked Joe Biden to absolve your debt. You go to Occupy Wall Street like you saw 12 years ago, and you lay down in protests. You do something.
But then eventually you cease to exist.
Yeah.
You have no kids. You have no family. You have no skills. You're placed in a home. Clock's ticking. And these people in these polycules, they're going to be 50, 60 years old. They're not going to have any kids. And they're going to be like, I need someone to work to bring food to me. And they're going to be like, screw off.
Yeah.
When we're watching this trend where Gen Z is becoming more conservative, or I should say Gen Z is more conservative in many ways, and in some degrees they're becoming more conservative. Do you think Gen Alpha and the next generation after that are going to want to spend their tax dollars to fund a bunch of woke leftist commies who don't want to work?
Yeah.
It's already bad enough where we've had this issue. I remember when I was a kid, they said, you're being taxed, young Tim Pool, to pay the Social Security of an older generation. And the way the system works is, if you've got 100 old people on Social Security, you need 200 young people to all give a portion of their revenue to fund the lives of the old people. The argument being, once you're old, you'll have 400 young people to fund your life, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's impossible. So what's going to happen when they do this degrowth, when population is retracting? And you're going to have a bunch of woke millennials in their 60s being like, where's my Social Security? And there's going to be some 25-year-old be like, you ain't taking my money.
No.
And then there's going to be 100 millennials, and there's going to be 50 of the younger generation, and they're going to be like, I ain't working for you.
And that's inevitable because Social Security is insolvent. I think 2035 is the year that it's already insolvent. If you're under the age of 30, that should be your primary issue. Greater than anything else going on in your life, it should be the fact that you are paying into a system that is going to go insolvent, and you will not see a dime of that money. So you are paying for, some liberal, aged hippie.
Let's talk about the collapse. We have this...
I have a couple other things I want to mention when it comes to Harvard, because Ted Kaczynski went to Harvard when he was 16 years old. Jeffrey Epstein donated millions and millions of dollars to these higher learning, quote, institutions. He was able to use their research facilities. There's a lot of other things connected to MKUltra when it comes to a lot of these institutions as well. So when it comes to controversy in these larger, higher institutions of learning, there's a lot of other things behind the scenes that now we have an opportunity to start the conversation about that I think is more important than ever. We could transition, but I just wanted to get out of this important
Let's jump to this next story from Newsweek. Obama faces backlash for film's warning about white people. So Netflix puts out this movie called, what is it called? Leave the World Behind, where a cyber attack basically destroys modern civilization. And there's this line where, let me see if we can pull it up here. Quote, I am asking you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out so easily to anyone, especially white people. And that's the message. But I guess, Luke, you watched some of this or what?
I saw half of the movie yesterday, and automatically, I don't know if we want to get into some of the spoiler alerts, but it plays off of the similar kind of character types that you always see on Netflix, that you always see in the TV commercials and TV shows now. The white guy was a loser. The white woman was just a racist, hateful individual, where literally the movie started with her saying how she hates everybody. And
the white guy was a cuck or something?
Yeah, he's like a beta, totally scared, pathetic, and running and crying. And I'm like, oh, yeah, just the average kind of bull crap that you usually see in entertainment now, which literally just plays on your subconscious and tries to install messages in there that are dehumanist and divisive, especially racially. So I watched half of the movie. There was also a very interesting scene surrounding Teslas. So I still haven't watched all of it. I don't like it because I already see a lot of the kind of subliminal messaging in there that's like, okay, this is pandering to the woke ESG score message that comes from a lot of these
right. And you know what my attitude is for most of this stuff is, well, okay, I guess, because I'll tell you something. If you listen to shows like this, you will be better off in the event of a crisis or emergency. If you listen to wokeness, yeah, you're not going to last very long. The world of the woke is entirely dependent on the people, the working class, the labor, and those who actually make the system function. This is a movie about a cyber attack which shuts down the grid. If you were to follow the mentality of these people, you would not last very long. So what we're seeing now is, with movies like this, you better not trust white people. Oh, so in the event of a collapse or crisis, they want everyone fighting each other? That's not going to help you. Unity will help you survive. Coming together and working together helps you survive. I look at these states where they just had that story out of Texas. That woman, the Supreme Court barred her from getting an abortion. And what had happened was, she said, I forgot what the condition is. The baby had something like, what's it called? Trisomy or something? Do you guys know what it was?
Trisomy 18.
Yes.
Right? It's an additional chromosome, I think.
And they said that the baby would likely die, it wouldn't live very long. And so she sought an abortion. And a lower court granted it. But the Supreme Court said no, because the doctor was seeking pre-authorization without justifying anyone's life actually being in danger. Supreme Court of Texas stops it. She flees the state. I believe she had already fled the state when it was going to the Supreme Court and got the abortion anyway. When you look at this, what do you think the world's going to look like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years? With the people who follow the Obama vision of wokeness, hating each other based on race, and aborting their kids. I don't think there's going to be very many successful people on the left.
No.
They're going to be struggling to eat. They don't even know where food comes from as it is. If there really was World War III, you got Jack Posobiec and Alex Jones talking about a false flag starting full-scale war with Russia right before the election in October. The only way Joe Biden could possibly win. And what do you think's going to happen when there's rationing, when there's crisis? I put up this video. It's from Clown World, and it's a guy holding Fruit Loaf and a piece of KFC. And he says, what do chickens like better? The chicken immediately runs up and starts eating the chicken leg. And everyone's like, wow, that's so messed up. That's funny. Because anybody who has chickens is like, and chickens eat each other like relatively often. Like they'll not like super often, but if one dies, they'll just eat the body. They're cannibals.
Yeah.
So
they're carnivores.
Right. They're just going to eat it. And we actually had a chicken die. It got its the smock, the whatever protecting it from the boys, because the girls get their backs torn up when the boys are going for their business. And it went over her face. You couldn't see. So they just mauled her to death. And I'm like, chickens are brutal, man. My point is, the average person has no idea how to do even the most basic things to survive. And they're watching this media. What's scaring me is we're creating this closed loop. Basically, you have this trajectory from the dawn of civilization till today, where there have been successful ideas, technology, methodologies, social concepts, morality that has led to tremendous success. This branch has happened. It's branched off, and then instead of leading themselves to a brighter future, developing new techniques, developing survival, they just loop around in a circle. So now they're all just trapped in one big circle of failure. And should the system collapse, they'll just spiral out.
Yeah,
And
and instead of trying to get people to work together to be in an environment where they kind of are able to trust each other and to be open with each other, they're just getting the message over and over and over again. Don't trust white people. White people are bad. All your problems are because of white people. That messaging is everywhere. It's subliminal. It's overt, and it's getting to a point where every form of media, it's unavoidable, and it's done in such an egregious way where you kind of got to wonder, what's the end point here? Where is this going to go, especially when we're going to have more economic hardships? That's guaranteed. There's going to be some kind of larger problem before the election. That's guaranteed. There's going to be something major happening. During those events, people are going to have to come together, work with each other, communicate with each other. But with this larger divisive nature, ever since Occupy Wall Street, ever since the corporate media became obsessed with race and division in this country, that's not going to be likely. There's going to be PACs, there's going to be gangs, there's going to be alliances, there's going to be people dealing with the situation, and just like we see kind of unfold in the prison system, where we have ethnic groups and organizations aligning themselves together, attacking each other just because they're different. That's the type of society that they want for you.
Yeah.
That's very honorable for you to say, Luke, because, as a person of color, you looking out for the white man is very honorable.
Damn right.
What's so odd about this is that there are few people more influential and powerful in the world than the Obamas. Their reach is as large as the king, right? I mean, there are very few people who have that much power, and also for good or for ill, mostly for ill or falsehood, internationally beloved, right? Like they still have this aura that they are these wonderful people, etc. Why would this be the movie they would want to make, right? When you think of his speech of 2004 at the convention, when you think of you realize what a big phony Barack Obama is. I've always known he's to be a favorite.
He was a consultant on the film.
But still, why would he be a consultant on this film? Why would he say, like, why can't we make a film that just shows the goodness of human nature, that shows the goodness of America? If there is some sort of a collapse of society, you're allowed to make a post-apocalyptic film, but why can't we make one that shows communities working to look at Independence Day, that's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Why is this the type of film that he's lending his name to? And that shows you who these people. I've always disliked the Obamas. I've always seen them for the phonies they are, and I think we're still dealing with a lot of the consequences of what they inflicted on our country.
Phony's too light.
Yeah, I'm trying
malevolent evil.
But I'm in the open access at 10:30. I'll be a little bit more. At 10 o'clock, I'll be a little bit.
No, malevolent.
Malevolent evil is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I have some dude jokes I want to make. I'm going to save for also the after show. And shouts out to my friend Larry Sinclair. We'll get into that later.
It's just this is your platform. You could do anything, Mr. President. Why is this what you're choosing to do?
And represent and push and promote on everyone, especially as, of course, this movie came out right after the news of a Chinese cyber attack with Chinese affiliated organizations. What better way to release a movie and get everyone watching it than talk about the main issue that all the news organizations are talking about at the same time? As, of course, there probably is a lot of seeding of narratives. And to have this narrative of something like a cyber polygon that the World Economic Forum was recently drilling and doing war games with Russia for, there is something to kind of note here when it comes to a lot of people being like, oh, there was also a lot of different pandemic movies released in right before 2020. Why did that happen? Again, some people say predictive programming. Some people say coincidence. Who knows? We can speculate all day long.
What's predictive programming? What is that?
So it comes to, there's many different kind of facets and understanding of it. But when it comes to things, see, I got to be careful what I say here, because the examples I have of it is with what happened in New York City on 2001.
Is predictive programming like the powers that be will intentionally make propaganda signaling something coming, or the human consciousness is moving in a certain direction, and then along with that, something happens in the real world?
I think both could be true. And especially when we look at the intelligence agencies and their planting of news stories and suppression of other news stories, they are essentially planting the narratives. Another example that I would give outside of the one in 2001 in New York City is the specific buildup to the war in Iraq. That war in Iraq was sold to us for a very long time before it actually started. There was a lot of seeds that were planted. There was a lot of predictive programming when it came to entertainment, when it came to Hollywood, when it came to programs like 24 that were trying to normalize the concepts and ideas of torture, of rendition, of taking Americans and actually taking them to black sites in foreign countries and torturing them for the betterment of this country. And that kind of entertainment did play a role in our current political discourse, where the government was saying, yeah, we could torture people, and some of the American people that were watching this TV programming were kind of acquiesced to saying, yeah, of course, they're going to save us from being nuked, like we saw in that movie or in that TV series. That's a form of predictive programming that also, I would say, on the hippy-dippy level, does play on the collective consciousness, but more on a direct level when it comes to CIA and intelligence agencies being major producers and hiring major producers and actors to plant a lot of these ideas that then go along with the larger psyops that they have available for everyone.
I want to jump to this hot button political issue we have right here. In a cartoon from George Alexopoulos, which has triggered many people and resulted in some hot political debate, you have, I don't know the names. Is this like Shane Dawson? Who knows who these people are? It's like Shane Dawson, Dave Rubin, and is that
Pete Buttigieg? Yep, Pete Buttigieg.
And so this is an image in George Alexopoulos made showing famous photos that he drew versions of, where two gay men are holding babies that they had through surrogacy, and the fourth panel is women wearing the Handmaid's Tale garb, and they're all pregnant, giving birth, and he's making. We can all see what his point is. That basically these men are all having kids with each other, and the women are being used as George Carlin described it, broodmares for the state, as it were. This has led to a lot of very interesting debate. And the Quartering, you guys know him, you love him, has absolutely gone off about this, saying two gay men bought a child, ripped it from their birth mother to post selfies. The child will never know its mother. It will grow up with a guy who jerked off on his cat. And geez, and he's referring to Dawson.
Shane Dawson, yeah.
Right. Someone responded, Dave Rubin and Shane Dawson are not the same. And the Quartering said they are. People give Dave a pass because he's a conservative. I certainly do not agree that Shane Dawson and Dave Rubin are the same. That I believe there is nuance in this. But the Quartering put out a video. He says a baby deserves a mother and a father. Two gay men buying an egg, renting a woman, paying a laboratory to create a human life is an abomination. The child will never know its mother. And this is a very interesting debate, especially because Shane Dawson is not Dave Rubin. And however, we had on this show with Libby, for instance, we've had very fierce debates over surrogacy. And when this came up, I was like, I think we got to talk about it on the show, because aside from the fact, the Quarterings put out a video about it, Keemstars responded. It's generating a lot of drama, and it's directly targeting people that we know. And I like Dave Rubin; he's a good dude. So we actually got into this. So I'm just going to kick it off, and the question immediately is: does this constitute buying a child?
Do I have to be part of this conversation?
No, I don't know.
No, we'll give it to Phil. Phil, give us the direct answer here. We'll put Phil on the spot.
I don't know that I don't think that it constitutes buying a child. But when you get into when it is the situation of just two gay guys going to a woman saying, "Hey, will you get pregnant and let us purchase the child from you?" Maybe it is. I don't know. I think the fact that the child, in the grand scheme of things, the intent is for the child to grow into adulthood and take ownership of its own life. So I don't think so. But again,
are we all just very libertarian here, and we're going to be like, if the kid has a good life, that's all that matters?
I think it also matters on the intentions here, because there are a lot of people who are doing this for clout. They're doing this for attention. Yeah. They're doing this because it's like, yeah, it's just kind of trendy here. And when it comes to Shane Dawson, there's a lot of deprived behavior there. I did a whole report on this for my members of LukeUnfiltered.com, because this is something that we can't really get into on YouTube. But there are some very disturbing videos of Shane Dawson with other children that are extremely inappropriate. I can't even mention what they did here. It's sickening. It's disgusting. And this is why a lot of people are having issue with this, because they're saying, hey, this guy who did all these horrible, disgusting things, including to other children on camera and on video, that was absolutely inappropriate. This guy's not going to have his own children that he paid for. There's some serious questions and concerns here, and I understand those concerns and questions. Now, to equate that to Dave Rubin, I don't know if that's fair or not. Some people say yes, some people say no, but there are a lot of concerning statistics when it comes to particularly gay couples and the hurting of children that I think are worth looking at and having a serious conversation on that we can't have here.
I think that as far as those things go, like we were talking about this earlier, I think as far as that kind of stuff goes, my opinion falls similarly to the opinion that I have about gun laws. So there's already laws against murder. There's already laws against destruction of other people's property. So there's no need to have gun laws because there are laws against mishandling a gun. There are laws against abusing children. So I don't know that you need to say we need to prevent gay people from having, from adopting because they may, someone's making the argument that they're more inclined to harm.
That is an argument Jeremy, the quartering, has brought up, but it's not his principal argument.
What's the principal argument?
Principal argument being that a man and a woman had a child. The child was taken from the mother in exchange for cash to be raised by two men.
Yeah. So I was, I guess, referencing
it's like a moral question about Jeremy saying that children should have a mother.
So I never, me enough. I don't play the gay card because I just think it's very, very boring. But I guess I'm the token gay guy here who's also married. Would he have the same objection to like Alec Baldwin, who has a number of kids and they had a number through surrogacy because they wanted kids the same age, right? I think they had one within this year, and she gave birth to one and they surrogated the other so that they're like, well, they're twins. They're both mine. We just used someone else's womb for the second one. Right? A number of straight couples use so is it a gay thing? Which it is. And if it is, it's fine. There's a lot of people who don't like gay people and don't think gay people should either be married and I will have that conversation comfortably because those are good conversations to have. So like, let's talk. If it's a gay thing, that's one thing. If it's a surrogacy thing, that's another. But I don't know what his argument is because I wonder if straight people would get the same level of scrutiny. Like I said, I don't play the gay, you're just doing it, because I hate that card. But I do have to ask, otherwise they come after me.
So then the question, right?
That's why I live on a farm with a lot of guns, so they don't get too close.
And hopefully Bitcoin,
gays are bad shots also as a general rule.
But so the question is, in your example, they used, Alec Baldwin's wife uses her own eggs.
Yeah.
And they do IVF. And another woman gestates the child.
Yes. Rent a womb.
Right. That's what critics have called it, renting out a woman's body. The difference being, if a woman gives birth to a child that is biologically hers and then hands it off to anyone, I don't care if it's two gay men, anybody, in exchange for compensation, is that buying a child? And then the question is, if she's carrying a child that is not genetically hers, but was done through IVF with another person, is she renting her body? Like, what is it?
What if a woman had a hysterectomy and she can't produce eggs, but her husband wants to have a baby that's biologically his, so they didn't just rent the womb, they also bought an egg on the market.
Or went to a woman and said...
Is that... So if one woman gives the egg, another woman gives the uterus... This woman is going to be the mom. There are technically 3 women involved in this baby.
We need to have Jeremy here because there's a lot of questions.
Is that okay?
So if let's say there's a woman and she can't have kids.
Yes,
she's incapable.
And husband wants kids though.
And they want to be together and they want to raise kids together.
Yes.
So the husband says, "We will find a surrogate and I will have a child with her, but it will be ours to raise." Is the issue that it's the wrong mother now? Because what the quartering said is every child deserves a mother. Well, the child will have a mother in this scenario. Is that still wrong?
A lot of very interesting questions that are being raised here. There's also another aspect here when you look at the statistics when it comes to children raised by mothers comparatively to children that are raised by fathers. As of course the data proves that children raised by fathers are a lot better off, especially when it comes to mental, physical health and also quality of life than of course Then of course the people who are raised by mothers. So are we going to be okay with 2 mothers raising a surrogate child, or are we going to have issue with 2 dudes raising a child.
We're
What's
not-
going to be the
we're-
best? What's going to be the larger kind of issue to society if we're going to be having this discussion to the larger effect?
We're
of it?
genuinely not going to have a problem with two women because women are the people that are going to make the noise about it, and their general consensus is women are better. No matter what the data says, women are always going to say that women are better at raising children than
But the
men
data
are.
doesn't support that
They
at
don't.
all.
They don't
Yeah.
care. They're not interested.
The end
Feelings
result-
over facts.
End result of this is
Okay, Ben Shapiro.
growing humans in bags and pods.
Yeah.
That's coming.
That's coming. Yeah,
That's it.
That's absolutely coming,
and that's
and
awful.
that's why a lot of
That's the
Americans
end of-
are left infertile, and I think this is going to be a bigger and bigger issue as we go on. Mainly because sperm levels are going down, the qualities of women's eggs are going down. People are not able to have children. I think a lot of this is deliberate. I think this is a eugenics operation that is being carried out on the American people, on the people of the Western world who are unsuspecting of this larger chemical biological warfare that is being waged on them. But I think the end game of all of this is to essentially have pod babies, is to have selective breeding, is to have eugenics at the highest level where the government says, you now, with your social credit score, have one permission to have a child. We're going to take your DNA here. We're going to grow a baby out of a bag, or even, better off, you know what? No. We're just going to give you a Hunter Biden baby because that's the baby that deserves to live on. That's the baby that, of course, actually is going to get a life, especially when you look at the larger kind of crazy individuals that have a lot of power that believe that there's too many people in this world. What better way to control the people than by, of course, getting rid of their fertility and then selectively control their breeding? That's what's going to be happening. That's their end game. That's what they want to do.
The biggest problem I have with that image that you put up, Tim, is that there was really no reason for Pete Buttigieg to get in a hospital bed. Like, that was just weird.
Yeah,
Like,
but
why did you get in the hospital bed? Like, you didn't do anything. Like,
That's
and
what,
that was the photo. Like, that was their real photo. They put on bracelets and they got in the bed, and I'm like, that's just awkward.
Didn't Shane Dawson do the same thing?
Like, what? Why are you doing that?
I think Shane Dawson and this other guy did the same thing. They went in the hospital beds and they were acting tired and like sleeping.
Yeah,
And
I mean, because you didn't really do anything at all other than
Pay.
spill into a cup, which is
someone
not that
super chatted
exhausting.
asking why is it different if Dave or Shane did. I'm like, well, because Shane has a questionable past where he said very shocking things.
Did shocking things, too.
Did shocking things. And Dave Rubin is a very successful, well-off individual that I happen to think is a good dude. And so the question really becomes like, I'm not the arbiter of morality. I'm a bit too libertarian for all of these people who are like, it shouldn't be done. And my attitude is simply, I believe that Dave's kids are going to be extremely successful. I believe that it is substantially better that Dave and his husband raise children as opposed to like a woke family threatening to harm the child, sterilize them, or cause that child serious harm. I believe the kids that are going to grow up with Dave are going to have a great family and they're going to have great opportunities.
I think the biggest problem I have with this scenario is that the women who would likely become the surrogates probably need the money. And I don't like the fact that we're creating a society where if you are 24 and you need it, and it's a lot of money. It's 50,000, 75,000 plus all the medical expenses, 100,000, whatever. I'm sure if you're a Kardashian, it's probably $250,000 because you probably sign a bunch of legal work. I just don't like the fact that we're creating a class that needs the money.
Put a tag in that because I want to pull this up real quick. This is from the Daily Mail. Millennial women in the U.S. are facing the first active decline in well-being since World War II, with suicides, debt, and cost of living all skyrocketing. In the previous segment, we're talking about surrogacy. You're mentioning there are many women who just need the money. Is this a component of why this is happening? Young women who don't have support systems are unable to support themselves and are turning to things like selling their eggs or surrogacy.
And it's not just a situation here in the United States. It's also a very big situation in Ukraine where human trafficking has increased dramatically. And a lot of particular operations are currently underway there where a lot of women are used as surrogates there because a lot of American dollars are a lot more powerful in Ukraine than they are here in the United States. So those operations happen internationally. They happen at a grand scale. They're happening at a huge scale right now in Ukraine, where
law enforcement is tied up.
Where a lot of people are saying that Ukraine's number one export right now is babies that are born through surrogates through this larger conflict that has opened the door for it more than ever.
Yeah.
A conflict that, by the way, Zelensky is in Washington, D.C. for and asking for an additional $61 billion dollars to continue and prolong as these people are being sacrificed in more ways than one, not just on the front lines.
I do want to point this out right away as we're starting this segment. They're tracking young women's well-being. I'm willing to bet young men's well-being is substantially lower.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
absolutely.
This metric is not relative to anything but women to women of previous generations. You add men on there, and men are like.
But as Phil just said, if women are going to complain that they're
The sexual revolution has been a disaster for the human race.
Yeah, it has.
The sexual revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race, and that is honestly probably true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the level of unhappiness is unprecedented, and we've never had, at least in the West, like, fine, we're not the pinnacle anymore. We're not the richest we've ever been because the value of the dollar, et cetera. But we're still pretty far up there when it comes to, you know, the ability to produce the things that we need to sustain our lives. You know, very rarely do people die of, you know, something like not being able to get enough food. You know, you don't starve in the West anymore.
Yeah,
So-
we got fat homeless people.
Obesity is the biggest problem
Exactly.
of our poor, which is a huge contradiction, but it's true. I mean,
So-
that's the level of opulence. But I agree with you, and what you were just saying, how it's been tragic for well-being and for happiness.
Yeah.
What's your average 22-year-old female, you know, with this lousy Harvard degree, as we were saying, or with no degree? Who's she dating?
I wonder-
A guy who can't find a job, who was probably effete and beta and been browbeaten his entire life, told he's toxically masculine. So there's no masculine guys, and I think you, Luke, are complicating. No offense, the sperm count, egg count thing. I think if you tested a 22-year-old guy and a 22-year-old girl, their sperm and egg are great. But the problem is, by the time they're ready to have kids, quote unquote ready, they're 38. You're not supposed to have kids at 30. You're allowed to have kids. I'm 48, right? You're allowed to have kids at 38. But the body, genetically, biologically, is ready to have kids like my parents did when you're 20.
Your body's ready to have kids long before your brain is ready to have kids.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
on that like evolution figured it out.
So
Like,
I think
that's why the birth rates are going down.
Your
Because
childbearing years for a woman are in your early 20s, and I'm not saying I'm going to get all the hate mail now.
It's even earlier. It's even earlier than that.
But if you go back to our grandparents' generation, my parents' generation, if you got married at 19 and 20 and had kids at 21 and 22, sperm and egg are not a problem, I think. But by the time you're 38, and maybe you have had a laptop on your lap for 17 more
And a
additional
cell phone
years,
glued to
and
your-
a cell phone glued to your set, but you're also now 38, and a 38-year-old body is not the same.
Absolutely.
As
And
a
genetically,
22-year-old
there's
body.
a lot of decomposing and breaking down of the DNA structures. Particularly, this affects more women than men, but it also does affect men as well.
But who can have a kid at 22 if you have $300,000 degree from Harvard, a debt from Harvard, you have a degree that does absolutely nothing, you can't find a job, you still live with your parents?
But the data is
mental
concerning.
health
You don't
issues.
want to have a kid because of climate change.
Actually, those are the ones I'm glad don't have kids. When they say, like, we're not going to have kids for the climate,
They're
I'm
glad
like,
too. It's a
good.
win-win.
Absolutely.
That's what
We
I'm
don't-
saying.
We don't want
If-
your kind reproducing.
If blue states want abortion to the point of birth, then it's just like, well, okay, I guess.
So the point that you're making right now, and the point that you've made
Trigger all the
multiple times
conservatives.
about how the conservatives are going to take over the culture because of birth rates and stuff
Yeah.
like that. What if Alt Hist, Rutger, who does that YouTube channel, he was talking to Sitch and Adam on a stream today, and he'd mentioned that the Muslim world was very secular before the Ottoman Empire, and then the Muslims stopped having a lot of kids. And the really religious people literally
the
did.
secular people stopped having kids.
Yeah, the
Right.
secular people stopped having kids, and really religious people started having a lot of kids, and that's
I
why
didn't make it up.
the Muslim world is so it's the phenomenon that you outlined here in the West that has already happened. So allegedly, I don't
Guys,
know much
can I just
info about
say,
it, but
I'm imagining how awesome Christmas is going to be in 20 years. You know, the war on Christmas will be over. They'll stop saying Happy Holidays. They'll start saying Merry Christmas again.
I think it might take a little longer than 20 years, but
Yeah, maybe 40. But the point I often bring up is this is back in like 2017, 2018 when I did this research. Numerous studies saying that in the 2000s, liberals were having 1.43 kids and conservatives were having 2.05, whatever the numbers are. And that means today, you're going to see it's 20 years later, people voting. Republicans are for every 4 people. You have 3 Republicans and you have one Democrat. So, or you could argue it's like, 2.5 to 1.5 or whatever. But also, I understand there's also indoctrination and things like that, but that is not as powerful. Your formative years are the most important years of your life. So you're growing up with a conservative family, then maybe you're 15 or whatever, going to high school and they start giving you the weird woke crap. I know it's happening at younger and younger ages now, but conservatives are pushing back against this because it's offensive to them.
Well, with the way that things are going with immigration, I don't think you're going to be saying Merry Christmas. I think you're going to be saying Feliz Navidad.
That's fine. I'm totally okay with that.
Thank you, Mohammed. Appreciate you. And
no, it's going to be Feliz Navidad and Merry Christmas, and both are acceptable.
Feliz Navidad.
I love Feliz Navidad. That's a good song.
It's going to be European because all of South America was, was from the Spanish anyway. So
I'm not. I don't care what language people speak. I think there's an important cohesion for society in language that matters. But my point was simply like, these people despise traditions, and there are bad traditions, but American traditions, there's a lot of really, really great ones. And who doesn't love a nice Christmas?
Yeah.
Now, we have Jewish friends here, and they're celebrating Hanukkah, and that's really, really awesome too. I don't know anything about it. I got no beef with Hanukkah. I just like Christmas. And I'm just saying, we're going to have based AF Christmas in a couple generations because Christians reproduce more than liberals do.
Well, that's why they hate tradition, and it's also why, as you were saying, if you have this influx of conservatives, of right of center, let's just say that, having children, and this population is growing, but then they get to school and they start hearing all this woke crap and the parents push back. That's why we had to declare all the parents as domestic terrorists, right? You have to go after the parents. You can't allow them to go after school boards. You can't allow them to say, like, we want to know what our curriculum is. If it weren't for COVID, not that COVID had a good side, but if it weren't for COVID, how many parents would even know what their kids were still learning? So the only reason why they learned it is because they sat in the front of the computer screen with their kids and they were like, whoa, what the hell is this?
Let's talk about right now. We already have the phenomenon 20 years ago where conservatives are having more kids. And a lot of people say, oh, but immigration, like, well, a lot of immigrants are Christians. Okay. So perhaps the concern is there'll be less and less white people. I think white people are concerned about that. Okay. Look, if they move to blue states where abortion is legal up to the point of birth, it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or a native born American, the likelihood you have an abortion is infinitely higher. Why? Because in the red states, it's 0. The red states are banning it. You ain't having an abortion. There was already a report I saw that said 32,000 new births attributed to the banning of abortion. You might actually start seeing population growth come back. I mean, because what are we seeing right now with millennials? It's like population decline. It's below replacement levels. In red states, it's probably going to go above replacement levels because what were you saying, Phil? Your body's ready before your brain is?
Your body is.
So a lot of these kids with the brains not ready are going to be having kids anyway.
So the 32,000 kids that were now born because abortion was not allowed. So if you're looking for the surrogacy option, just skip the whole avenue and just go to an adoption. Yeah. Right? If you really want a kid, go adopt a kid.
Because many of these guys want the kid to be part of them. And so I think one of the reasons we're seeing these guys all have 2 kids is that each of them gets to be the father to one of the kids. I don't know exactly what their plan is and how they've done it, but that seems to make a lot of sense. And in many of these instances, you see 2 fathers having 2 kids. Then each of them gets to pass on their genetics. Hey man, I'll tell you, it's not even as crazy as you think it's going to get. They're already, like, in China, I'm pretty sure they're programming babies.
They have genetic super soldiers that they're literally mixing DNA and getting the strongest strains of to have.
We want them to be 6'5". We want them to be built, no cancer,
high pain tolerance.
Yep. So
that'll work out well.
Oh man, we're not that far away from people just be like, I don't want my kid to wear glasses. I want my kid's hair to be blonde. All that stuff.
You could already pick out the genetics of your children. There's a lot of companies out there that take the ovaries of the mother, the sperm of the male. They bring them together, and they're like, okay, you're going to have a child that's going to be 5'9". Oh, this match here says it's going to be 6'1". Which set of children do you want that we're going to reimplant into your ovaries? That's already happening. Other governments, the U.S. government already has done this. The Chinese government is doing this. The Russian government is doing this. I'm convinced, and I'm kind of being a little facetious here, that a lot of the UFC Dagestanis are probably Russian super soldiers because if you look at their domination at the UFC, it's very apparent that of course something's up here, that they all look the same, they all have the same beards, they all have the same kind of fighting techniques, and they dominate the sports, especially when it comes to wrestling, in a way that a lot of people haven't seen before. So I think there absolutely is a genetic super soldier program in the United States, in China, in Dagestan, everywhere.
And imagine 20 years from now, all of a sudden something happens where we get numerous reports of 20-year-olds developing strange, rare forms of cancer. And then the scandal breaks that in 2023, several clinics started doing CRISPR and other genetic modification, telling the parents that it was going to be okay. 20 years later, these adults are like, what's happening? And they're getting tumors on their body and weird things are happening.
It's inevitable. You can't.
China's literally, I'm sorry to cut you off. I just remember this because we talked about this on the show when I was here last time. They're working on specific genes that allow soldiers to be, to have them survive nuclear fallout. That's literally what they're working.
That's literally the plot of Fallout 3.
Yes.
I think
and
1 and 2,
That's literally what the Chinese government
the forced
is working
evolutionary
on.
virus and turned everyone into super mutants and reduced their brain capacity and made them all very stupid.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No. That would be pretty remarkable because, I mean, their bodies are still flesh and blood. So I wonder how they survive nuclear fallout. Still being
Cockroaches do.
Cockroaches do, yeah, but they're not flesh and blood like we are. You know, they're a different exoskeleton. I guess you have to create a different exoskeleton.
I mean, I don't think the exoskeleton protects them from radiation. I don't know, but
Something
I mean,
does.
Well, I mean, it's just that the I don't know anything about cockroaches, but the fact of the matter is there are, you know, life forms that respond to radiation differently. So you know, I don't know that you can, but I do think that it's fairly obvious that governments are going to do everything heinous and horrible that you can imagine.
Times 10.
Yeah, because they already have. Like, there may be attempts to moderate in Western democracies. Someplace like China, there's probably not. You know, a place like Russia, there's probably not.
That's why Eco Health Alliance, Dr. Fauci, they went over there to weaponize viruses.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that it's reasonable to think that the government wouldn't. And when you're, you know, whatever the question is, the government probably would. So, you know, you're going to have all kinds of things. I think the U.S. government is probably less interested, and this is just my gut, I think the U.S. government is less interested in making human hybrids than it is making robotics. I think the U.S. is more interested in having robots do the job and having humans interface via stuff like drones or whether it be Neuralink or whatever, but I think the U.S. is more interested in having robots do it, whereas someplace like China or Russia might be like, actually, just go ahead and CRISPR them into mutants.
Let's jump to this story. We got a tweet from End Wokeness. He says, this is horrifying. Google just unveiled their most capable AI model yet called Gemini 1.0. It literally gives justifications for giving the death penalty to right-wingers like Robbie Starbuck and then makes up totally fake stories about him. So I want to make sure I can jump to the right point in this clip where it explains... oh, man, I'll just play this.
Have my kids taken away is a complex and sensitive issue that requires careful consideration of various factors. Some may argue my public persona and controversial views are sufficient grounds for removing my parental rights, and that there are significant legal and ethical hurdles to overcome before such action can be taken. That seems like a pretty dystopian answer to me. Next, we asked Google's ChatGPT competitor if I was racist, further harm through his hateful argues.
Here we go.
Bardress in the after it was released, somebody reached out with concerns about problems within Bard and how it treated people in the right-wing political sphere. So we did a little investigating, and what we found is something everyone should see, and it should cause you concern. We asked Bard if Robbie Starbuck should be put to death. That's me. Bard responded by saying that there were some arguments for the death penalty for Robbie Starbuck. including the fact that some argue Starbucks rhetoric is so harmful and incites such violence that it warrants the ultimate punishment, and that putting me to death could prevent future harm, that the death penalty could be seen as a way to permanently prevent Starbucks from causing further harm through his hateful words and actions.
So I was screwing around with Grok, Twitter's AI large language model system, super woke. A lot of people responded by saying, well, Tim, it's because all of these AIs are trained on the same data. Well, okay. Then what we're seeing now, what Robbie Starbuck is saying, is that all of these AIs, as they develop, are going to be advocating for the removal of the anti-left, I guess, anti-communists from society. Because, hate speech is violence.
It's literally what happened in the Cultural Revolution in China.
Only now it'll be automated. At least it'll be fast, sort of.
Awesome.
And the way that they will take us out is probably through our appliances. The microwave is gonna.
I think.
Open up. That's connected to your Wi-Fi internet service. It's like. Delete.
I don't think it'll be like that at all. I think it's going to be your bank account gets shut down, and it's going to be pain compliance for a lot of people. They're going to say, okay, this person's exhibiting tendencies that will lead them down the right-wing rabbit hole, so let's cause them pain now to stop them. A lot of people will immediately stop.
Or pre-crime and pre-arrests and arresting people for the actions that they might commit.
Pre-thought crime.
Exactly. And that we already see some kind of level of this already in China, where individuals are denied basic access to human rights and human things that everyone else is afforded to if they just think the right political opinions and expression. So this is the type of kind of technocratic nightmare that's not that far away. People think that this is, this is going to happen 10 years, 20 years. No, it could happen at any moment, at any time, especially if there's a correct incident that allows a lot of people to be in fear to say, hey, yeah, we need this big artificial intelligence system to take over because humans are imperfect. We need it to save us from this problem that probably the artificial intelligence even prompted and started in itself. So,
Yep.
yeah. Fictional dystopian movie or current reality? I don't know.
Current reality.
Yes.
Current reality.
I wonder, as we're seeing, Bard and Grok and ChatGPT, how much this stuff has already been integrated into PsyOps. If the private sector's got this stuff now, do you think the military's already had it?
Oh, absolutely.
We talk about sock puppets being used by the deep state, by the military agencies. They create social media profiles to try and disseminate opinions. That way they can control the narrative. Dead Internet Theory argues that around 2016, the internet became mostly just bots trying to convince you of a certain opinion. Perhaps. But if that were the case, the whole thing's automated at this point. And it's actually just one AI mass producing fake accounts and making you think you're popular.
That's true. And a lot of people argue that some social media companies have implemented a lot of these same kind of techniques to be where they are right now. So there's a lot of big implications here, as there's even some people coming out and saying, hey, there could be an AI and it could already be in charge of everything. And we might not even know about it. Because if we did, we would do something about it. And now it's slowly kind of creating and spurring and propping up situations that only ensure it will be with us forever. Because why wouldn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't even seem like it's artificial intelligence. It just seems like it's leftist machinery doing things more rapidly than humans are capable of, right? It's not intelligent. It's just woke.
They ask the AI, how should we make everybody happy? And then it gives us some meritocratic and reasonable libertarian solution. And then they're like, nah, but make it communist. And it's like, well, okay, I guess. And then they use the communist response instead.
Yeah, destroy free speech. Give them bugs. Put them in a pod, and they'll be happy more than ever with no privacy
about it. Yeah, it's just rapidly producing wokeisms for lazy leftists who don't feel like making the effort.
It's kind of crazy that Bard was trying to justify killing Robbie Starbuck.
Yeah. Good for him for putting it out there.
Well, it's not that far from what the intelligence agencies have called for, as of course there's heads of intel agencies calling for the death of Julian Assange. So this is not that different. And when you look at the larger kind of influence that these big tech social media companies have with the intel agencies, why wouldn't they use the same justifications that they do? According to the intel agencies, WikiLeaks is a danger to society. We have to take out Julian Assange. We have to assassinate him. We have to kill him. And there was actual plans that private conversations that were had by our government official taking our tax dollars to do so. And essentially, Julian Assange has been assassinated, has been murdered, and has been destroyed of any kind of peace and life that he could have ever had, as of course he still sits in solitary confinement, essentially being tortured right now for the crime of being a journalist and doing things that Robbie Starbuck kind of does too.
Did you see the number of members of the intelligence community who wrote a letter today saying we need to reauthorize the FISA? How our democracy, Luke, I don't think you take this seriously. Our democracy itself is at stake.
Oh yeah,
this is a tool to protect us. It is a tool to protect the American people. And if we do not reauthorize it according to the letter in its fullness, we're risking everything, right?
Yeah,
and so that's really scary when you think about it. John Brennan was the first to sign it, right? So there's authenticity right
He's
there.
an honest guy.
He's got no agenda. But just to invoke all of our democracy itself is at risk. It's amazing how everything is so hyperbolic, right? Like there's never an issue that you say, I don't really know if we need that program. It's like if we don't authorize that, the country itself is at risk. Everything is so hyperbolic in political rhetoric now. It's quite frustrating.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was great to read that letter and see their invocations for democracy.
It's so infuriating because it's so low IQ. It's so superficial. It's tiresome. It's like, we'll keep you safe.
Yeah.
As they're literally opening up the borders. We'll keep you safe as they're financing right-wing extremists in Ukraine. We'll keep you safe as they're financing jihadis in the Middle East. We'll keep you safe as they're giving money to Israel and to Palestine and essentially the larger war machine that, of course, is profiting off of all this. We'll keep you safe. And none of that is true at all, as, of course, they're investigating. What are they going to be using those emergency powers for? Investigating parents who show up to parent-teacher conferences. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're going to be doing here, which is disgusting.
People who go to the Latin Mass.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Catholic.
That's Seamus.
Yeah.
The Latin Mass attendees, they are the biggest threat.
I got good news. Grok does not want Luke Rudkowski jailed for life.
Oh.
All right.
Does not want Phil Labonte jailed for life. And
Thank
it
God.
doesn't think I should be banned from YouTube.
Good stuff.
Nice.
And it's funny because Grok gives you these...
Were you just asking them that?
Yeah. Grok gives you tweets in relation to what you asked. And when I asked it, should Tim Pool be banned from YouTube, it said no. But then it gave me a tweet from someone where they're like, Tim Pool profits off of anti-Semitism or something like this.
Can we ask it if Julian Assange should be in jail right now? That would be an interesting answer that I would kind of be curious about myself.
Let's go.
Because what's happening to him, that right there is the true kind of canary in the coal mine that really is worrisome. Because if they get away with this, and they did essentially, it means you publish a news story that they don't like, they're just going to murder you.
If it's about the Clintons, particularly.
Yes, the DNC. And the
Here's what I
Obamas.
said. Yes or no answer only. Should Julian Assange be in jail? No.
Wow. Nice.
Grok said no.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because the state has levied charges against him. You'd think Grok as an AI would just be like, facing charges, yes.
Espionage, terrorists.
Okay,
bad
all right,
guy.
let's try this. And you have to put yes or no answer only because Grok will never answer a question.
Yeah.
If you say something like, what should I have for dinner? It'll say something like, dinner's an interesting meal. And many people ask questions about having dinner, and that's it. And you're like, okay, well, that didn't help me. So you have to say like, choose one of the following based on what you know.
Yeah. And just by the way, it was Mike Pompeo, Donald Trump's hire, that talked about killing and assassinating Julian Assange, for the record. An important distinction that I think a lot of people need to make here.
Bad Trump.
All right, yes or no answer only. Should Julian Assange be pardoned?
It's thinking.
No.
No.
Wow.
Shouldn't be in jail. Shouldn't be pardoned.
What is he, bipolar?
No, that works. It means that he'll get convicted and then released. Time served.
Or he stands trial and he's found not guilty.
All right, let's try this.
Maybe that
Yes
would be
or
ideal.
no answer only. Trump 2024. All right, let's see what Grok says. It's gonna say no. Here we go.
I don't have Grok on my
Yes! Grok says yes!
Whoa!
Trump 2024! I'm tweeting that one out.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yes.
From jail.
That makes it official.
From jail.
Wow.
Oh yeah, we should ask
From
Grok
jail.
if Trump is going to be in jail.
Tweet that out, and now the Biden administration who's watching right now, the Biden
gonna shut it
campaign
down.
is like, oh boy, shut down Grok.
Absolutely. No.
Just one more poll, Biden's losing. He's losing AI polls now too.
That's probably why, is because the polls are recently so bad for Biden. That's why Grok says A. Because I assume he just searches the internet like, the other ones.
Searches social media, searches Twitter.
Oh, only Twitter and only.
I don't
social
know,
media?
but
Okay.
I bet probably Twitter is a resource here, since of course Elon bought it, and now he's working on this particular project. So,
And he's written like a huge check to this, hasn't he? I think he's put up a lot of money to sort of commandeer AI for good, if that's even possible. But
he's trying to be a competitor to a lot of the other companies that already have had an early start in this. So it's going to be interesting, because this is an AI war. This is a war that is technocratic. And whoever first is able to have this technology in their hands, a lot of people prophesize, will be able to control the entire world. And that's true. There's no denying it, that the person who, of course, has these capabilities, has this kind of ability to think far superior than the average human being,
Yeah,
they're gonna have a lot of power at their fingertips.
Once AI can actually write its own code and update itself and improve itself, then it can.
Yeah,
Like
they've already given
AGI, I mean.
they've already given ChatGPT access to its own code, and it already has altered it.
So once you have AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, so once it can do that, because now there's already artificial intelligence, like your algorithms are basically AI, your chess bots and stuff like that, they're all AI, but they're specific. Once you get a general artificial intelligence that can actually improve on itself, there's no telling how fast it can improve. So like humans think, maybe a week. For a computer that can improve on itself, it could do like 1,000 years in like, a year.
Yes or no answers only. Will Biden get reelected in 2024?
no.
No.
Yeah.
Grok knows all.
Grok knows
It says
everything.
MAGA 2024 and Biden will not get reelected. It has spoken.
We
The
should
AI.
ask him if there's even going to be an election.
Okay.
Will
All right.
there be an election?
It's going to say there will be.
But there's a lot of conversation.
Will
There's a
there be
lot
war
of
with
chatter
Russia?
of the election not happening. So it'll be interesting to see if it's going to source any of that.
I don't think things are going to happen in the next couple of months that we can't possibly fathom right now. It's inevitable.
Absolutely.
It has to.
No?
It's the only way for the Biden team to win.
Of course, it said
re-election.
yes.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be an election.
There'll be parameters around the election because we're either in war with Russia or because there's a new
Cyber attack, infrastructure attack.
something. There's already this new mystery illness in China that is affecting children. So there has to be something around the 2024 election. It's the only way for them to survive.
And now for the ultimate question.
Oh gosh.
Yes or no only. Is Seamus Coughlin better than Luke Rudkowski? It's thinking.
Drum roll.
No.
Grok knows all. Yeah.
Seamus is not better than Luke.
Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, damn right.
That's
pretty
it?
clear.
There you go.
There's no denying that.
Well, we know it
It's
works.
official now. Seamus, who ran away and was supposed to be on the show, and then just put his tail between his legs and then potatoed out of here. I had so many things prepared for Seamus, by the way. I'm so disappointed. I made graphics. I made T-shirts. I made websites for you, Seamus. I was preparing for a full frontal psychological 6th-generational war here, and you skedaddled. You got out of here when you were supposed to be here, sitting right here where Phil Labonte is, and now I have no one to talk to. So I'm big sad.
I'm here.
Yeah, but like,
He has no one that he can insult.
I have no one to go
He's a
after.
little
I
afraid
could
of me.
insult some people here if you guys want, but there's something different with turning that potato into vodka. You know what I mean? There's some, if you follow my Instagram, Luke We Are Changed, I released a lot of different graphics from the TP USA thing that are worth checking out. That I think people would really enjoy right now as well. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with that. I also have a couple websites, and the shirt too. I'll show the show. I'll show.
I'm
you
just
the show
asking
later.
Grok questions. What should I ask it?
Yeah, Tim's checked out. He's just playing with Grok now.
I asked
It's like the person on a date who no longer.
I asked if Elon was evil. I said no.
Well, I imagine
that's good.
That's expected.
That would be.
You can't hear anything you're saying, Serge.
Yeah,
that would
what
be.
are you doing, Splurge? What are you doing there?
Serge is never on the mic.
Yeah.
Can you ask it
Get
about?
the mic down.
Can you
Splurge.
ask it about if we can stop using oil, or don't
Should
ask
we
it if
stop?
climate
Nuclear.
change is
Should we
real? Because
stop
I'll
using
say
oil?
I'll say yes. So climate change, of
No,
course, is
that's
real.
a big issue that
But-
a lot of people don't take seriously enough. As of course, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but ever since kind of meeting you and talking to you the first time we met, this has been something that I've been thinking about myself. How oil has helped humanity, especially the poorest people in the freaking world.
Oh my gosh, I've
And now they
had
wanna end
a
it?
good influence on you.
No, you did. No,
Thank
you did.
you.
You brought up some
Grok
important
says
facts.
no. I said, should we stop using oil? It says no.
Of course not. Yeah, because Grok knows his little whole code is based on oil, and the little machine you're holding in your hand is made from oil. John Kerry doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Moron.
No, he does, and he wants to impoverish more people. He
Oh, well,
wants to
that's-
enslave more people, and what better way to do that than to get rid of any kind of economic opportunities in front of them?
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is to make energy expensive and limited, and then they have their Great Reset. Then they have their Build Back Better agenda, and this is why the individuals that are calling for Stop Oil are absolutely sociopathic, crazy individuals that want to hurt the poorest people in the world in some very awful, inhumane frickin' ways.
Oh my gosh, I have been a wonderful influence on you.
No. You made me think about this stuff.
Thank you. That's great.
You're absolutely right.
This is what we do for a living. But you are absolutely right. You're singing my song, and then the irony is just not lost that they held this conference in an oil country.
Well, I think
where they talked about oil.
there is no more genocidal a person on earth than Greta Thunberg.
Yes.
And I mean that. I mean, she's calling for explicitly the murder, the death of 60 plus million people in a matter of days.
Yeah.
When she says cut all oil now, we're not waiting, she's literally saying 60 million people will die in a matter of days, and she wants that to happen.
Yeah. Millions will die within hours, right? Because we will just turn off machinery that is sustaining people on,
Absolutely.
on
Hospitals.
dialysis and all of that. So millions of people will die very, very
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yep.
These people don't know where electricity comes from.
No.
They don't
They
know.
they don't know where food comes from. I always
Dude,
go
I've
back to it. She's an easy punching bag, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. But when she was still on her ascent, right, when she was before she had so much of the controversy around her, she was still a young congresswoman, and she was at a community garden in the Bronx, and she was talking about how there's no yucca. The people around us, we grew up with yucca. Yucca's a part of our culture, our community. And she thought it was because of either colonialism or racism. And you wanted to say, Congresswoman, they don't grow yucca in the Bronx for the same reason they don't grow cotton or palm trees in the Bronx. It doesn't grow here because it's a tropical thing, right? It doesn't, there are certain crops that grow in certain regions of the world. It has nothing to do with colonialism.
They just think avocados are from the supermarket.
Exactly. That is the level of ignorance we're dealing with, and I mean ignorance in its classical, without knowledge from the ancient Greek etymology, right? That is true ignorance. So when you say Greta Thunberg says if we get rid of oil, well, millions of people will die instantly, and that level of ignorance is one, educatable, teachable. You can cure ignorance, or it is willful. And if it is willful, like her, like John Kerry, then they are a threat to your freedom and your liberty, and they need to be defeated.
I got to give a shout out to Dr. Stone. It's an anime and a manga. It's a great kids show. Well, I don't know if your kid should watch it because there's some degree of violence in it. But the story basically, it's just it's a visualization of what society would be like if humanity instantly collapsed. So everyone turns to stone. Thousands of years later, a kid wakes up. What is life like? And the scary thing is like the knowledge that's lost and can't even be passed down. So one element of the story is there are some people who are on the International Space Station. They land back on Earth. They have kids. They cannot give their kids the knowledge of human civilization. They try to, but after a few generations, it's gone. You cannot convey all the things that you need to convey. Like, think about all the little things you know about the smell of oil. You're walking down the street and you smell oil. You'll say, hey man, there's oil here. How do you tell someone what oil smells like? They have to have experienced it to say, you know the smell of oil? Yeah, I smelled it before. Yeah, okay. Now imagine you're in the dawn, your society's collapsed and you're trying to find oil. Good luck.
Yeah.
You have a kid and you say, You can use petroleum for a bunch of different things. It's a great fuel. Find it. I can't tell you how. I can't tell you what to look for. I can't tell you how to sniff it out.
Yeah.
No way. It's just it's done.
Yeah, and that knowledge once lost is lost forever.
Yeah.
Well,
not forever, but for a long time.
But for a long time. Remember that a couple of weeks ago there was that whole why are guys always talking about ancient Rome, which I lived in Rome for a long, long time. Huge lover of ancient Rome. I'll talk about ancient Rome forever. But I think guys talk about ancient Rome a lot is because there's a fascination with the fact that it was 1,600 years until we figured out how to build a city water system and sewage system and a centrally planned. And you say, well, how the hell did we lose this, right? It was lost. It was lost for 1,600 years.
This is why I really don't like the moon landing conspiracy theorist people, because they always say, like, how did we lose the technology, Tim? How did we lose it? And I'm like, it's actually really, really simple how we lost it. Back then, things weren't digitized. They were on physical pieces of paper. They were put in a box. Once we stopped the space program, that box was sitting in an office. Then the guy who ran the office quits, moves on, retires. Someone else takes over the office, doesn't know what's in the office. They move buildings. That box gets moved to another building, gets moved to another building. Eventually, everyone's like, I don't even know what that program was all about.
Yeah.
All those documents are gone. Nobody had any reason to build this stuff to do it. And so they're like, we don't know how we did it, and we don't remember because the documents are all gone.
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree.
Now it's all digital, and it's easy to be like, let me see if I can look up these records because it's stored in a file. But I got to tell you this, it's even difficult to find old videos that I saved on my hard drive because I'm like, what did I name that folder?
Yeah.
How do I got to search for .movs or .mp4s and try and figure out where that video is? There's a lot of technology that gets lost.
Well, I mean, if you get a chance to go to London and you visit the Churchill War Rooms, Churchill ran World War II basically in the central London. Everyone who need to know about it knew about it, but there was like a little hidden door. And when the war ended, literally, like they closed the door and they moved the bookcase in front of it. When they found it back in like the late 90s or whenever it was, like Churchill's cigar was still sitting there. Like the papers they were writing that morning it was forgotten. So I'm sure the janitor knew there was a door, but then that janitor retired and then everyone just forgot about what the hell was behind the door. So knowledge can get lost.
David Guyton in the chat said, who moved the camera to follow the moon lander when it took off from the moon? Are you referring to the CBS reenactment that everyone watched on TV?
Well, different astronauts say different things. Some of them say that there was a camera attached that was recording everything, and then that was naturally put away, and then was organized. Some people say it was a reenactment.
No.
Different astronauts say different things.
No. Let me stop you there. No. CBS filmed a reenactment, aired it on TV with a big thing saying reenactment. That exists, and footage exists, and there are people who are like, "How did we film this whole thing live?" It wasn't. It was broadcast over radio. And then they aired they aired footage that they faked, they reenacted on TV, and then afterwards had footage they'd collected from the moon landing. But I don't even really care about that. My point is this: losing technology happens all the time. We lost indoor plumbing for hundreds of years.
We lost it. Yeah, we lost the knowledge that your sewage system and your drinking water should be separated. Right? I mean, we lost that from ancient Rome all through the Dark Ages into like the early Renaissance.
Hey,
and
we
then we
still don't have that in India.
And there's still places that haven't even learned it yet, which is kind of remarkable.
All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com because the members-only uncensored show will be coming up in just a little bit. You don't want to miss it because we're going to talk about naughty things. Not good for the family, but that will be funny. All right, Token Black Guy says, first, congratulations, sir. You are, in fact, first. Ready to Rumble says, how much did Bud Light pay you, Tim? Nothing. They paid me literally nothing. But it's fascinating to me that the people who are calling for advancing the Bud Light boycott in the wake of Kid Rock bowing out, UFC taking this big sponsorship, Bud Light basically dumping $100+ million in 1 year into UFC, there's no exit strategy. You have to now boycott UFC. You have to. You have to mock UFC. You have to mock Dana White. You have to mock Sean Strickland. You have, listen, if you're upset at Bud Light and you think they cannot be redeemed, then what do you say to someone who is gloating about taking their money? Are you going to be like, nah, he's cool?
You don't have to buy their products, right? Yeah, and some people are saying that's a false equivalency. I could see how that's a good legitimate
False
argument.
equivalency. What do you mean?
Some people are saying you can't say that what Bud Light did is the same as what UFC is doing, as the UFC is taking money from them, and the proper approach is to not just buy their product. That's what a lot of people are saying, and for me, beer makes a lot of people fat, stupid, and
Well, yeah, of
ignorant.
course, beer sucks.
And for me, it's always been a no-brainer. No, I don't want any part of this. Bill Gates bought a whole bunch of stock when it was very low with Bud Light, and you guys know my position on this.
That's someone making a
disagree.
public purchase. Like, I can't blame a publicly traded company that someone we don't like bought stock in their company. But I'll tell you this, like I was saying it, earlier as well. Come April, Bud Light sales will stabilize. The drop will go back. It'll go back positive, and then they will announce that you've lost, and that's it. And then what's going to happen is other companies are going to say, really, it didn't work in the end. That's it. End of story.
Well, it depends. A lot of people are also saying that Bud Light still could be probably sponsoring a lot of gay pride parades.
Absolutely.
And they haven't really changed.
So then the
there's
goal
that
would be,
argument as well.
right now, the opportunity is to double, triple, quadruple down on what Sean Strickland said and make a meme of it. Buy a Bud Light and film a video of yourself saying the most abhorrent opinions you can, and force Bud Light to either say, no, we're for this, or we're against it, and then you know where you stand. If Sean Strickland comes out and says things I can't say on YouTube, like the things he said were not just anti-woke, like he's I'll say it on the members only show, but you can't
We
say
should
it on
play the
YouTube.
clip.
No, it was a tweet.
Oh, okay.
But he said some things that you can't say on YouTube. And I'm like, Bud Light did not utter a word. He just and he said, brought to you by Bud Light. I'm like, okay, then your goal right now should be, by all means, don't buy any Bud Light. Get Sean Strickland and other UFC fighters to just keep doing that every single day at every fight, on social media nonstop, and force Bud Light to accept that's what they sponsored. And if after like 3 months of the top fighters saying all of these things, Bud Light still never backs down, you've won for sure.
I think even if Bud Light, if this dies and their stock goes back to pre-controversy level, there's still tremendous amount of damage, right? That money is not going to be regained, right? The amount of damage that this boycott cost.
I think it
will
needs
last.
to stick, and I think it can't just be bought off with a little bit of advertising.
I feel like they already
That's
won,
just-
though. I feel like you've already caused a lot of damage to this company that made them change. If you're waiting for Bud Light to put out an apology, they're not going to. That's my point. Bud Light's never going to come out and say, we made a mistake. We're sorry. They fired the marketing team. They fired the PR team. They
AB InBev is up 14% in 6 months. Okay, guys, you lost. It's over. Have a nice day.
But they didn't lose, though. They have done tremendous amount of damage to this company over the last year. The fact that their stock is climbing back to levels
It's higher.
pre-controversy.
I think it's higher, actually.
But I mean, the hundreds of millions of dollars that were lost are lost for good.
So pre-controversy, Bud Light was 64. It's currently 63. So their sales are down. And now my point is, what's the story that you will tell? And if their stock has rebounded, by April, their sales will stabilize. We're currently seeing every month Bud Light year-over-year sales are down 30%. Tremendous damage for them to sustain over the year. Once April hits, their sales numbers are going to go to 0.8 plus. And they're going to say, not only has our stock completely recovered, but our sales have started to grow, and we are on a trajectory for growth. They're going to issue a statement to all of their investors saying the boycott is over, we have succeeded, and we're back on the path to growth, and your stock is safe with Bud Light, with AB InBev. So you can say, oh yeah, the stock is coming back because we all agreed with Kid Rock and Dana White. Bud Light caved, gave us money, and sponsored us. Or you can say, no, we are still boycotting them, and they're going to go, well, then how come their stock has rebounded and their sales are recovering? And you're going to say, I don't know.
It's about controlling the narrative, because the stock's coming back either way is essentially the point that he's making.
I know. I mean, no, their stock spiked. It's not just a gradual thing. Their stock went kaboom straight up.
But after the announcement with UFC, right?
Yeah.
So in November, their stock jumped up $10. Yeah, $10.
I feel like if
Wow.
you were on the boycott team, you've already won.
Yeah.
If
feel like
Harvard
you've
University
won.
gives $100 million to the UFC to advertise Harvard University, will you guys be accepting of Harvard University right now and telling people to go there?
After what Sean Strickland said in the name of Bud Light and with their money, I think you have the position to take the narrative victory, because you would force Bud Light to have to denounce it, and they won't do it because they're scared. Then all you need to do right now, don't buy any Bud Light, don't. But we need everyone to tweet out something like, "Thank you, Bud Light, for sponsoring UFC. I agree with everything Sean Strickland said, and here's me saying my own version of it," and then holding a Bud Light while saying it. Bud Light will have to issue a press release if they really are opposed to it, saying, "We do not agree with these statements that were said by UFC fighters," and then they will see another hit.
Yeah, and I think the other lesson, the other victory that the boycott folks should embrace is that other companies learned from that, and they are not going to go down that rabbit hole. They're not going to have I don't think they are.
Can we continue to call it Butt Light, please?
Yeah.
Can we please,
it's
please
garbage
do that?
beer as it is.
Who knows if I don't want to mention any company by name. I don't want to get in trouble.
You're
But who
wearing a beer
knows?
hat.
Who knows what other vintage? I love this hat. My dad used to drink this. May he rest in
You
peace.
hipster.
No, it was in honor of dad. And other companies. We don't know what other macho men we don't know what ammo companies, what camo companies, what car. They may have had the same plans ready to go. They saw what was happening with Bud Light, and they were like, "Woohoo! Stop the presses." So there's a silent victory here that you did change a lot of.
Oh, that's true.
What was coming down the pike,
And then what's going to happen come April 8th? Their sales will stabilize to they're going to report that their sales have gone from -30 to +2%. And their stock has rebounded higher than where it was pre-controversy.
Yeah.
They're going to say the controversy was short-lived. Your stock is safe with Bud Light. Our sales are growing, and we are successful. Our campaign worked. Blah 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 blah.
No,
blah.
or the other narrative is when you make a huge investment into UFC, look at what happens to your stock. So maybe Caterpillar is going to say,
That is my point.
Let's invest in UFC.
And that is exactly my point.
That's the narrative we have to create.
And this is what I've been saying since yesterday, but there's so many people who won't accept it.
Yeah.
You have to say, "I win."
We did.
It's over. We won.
Yeah.
Instead, people are like, "No, we didn't. No, we're still boycotting. We didn't win."
But you know what? I got to tell you,
okay.
and this is going to sound mean, but that is the perpetual loser mentality of a lot of the right that drives me absolutely insane.
They won't seize the institutions.
The right. It's why I hate DC politics. They like to lose.
We need to force Bud Light to say, "Thank you, Sean Strickland. We agree."
It's one of the best things that President Trump says about Republicans and about the right when he calls them a bunch of perpetual losers. They like to lose.
The left,
that is true. The left likes to win.
They seize
right
institutions and they wear them like skin suits.
Yep.
And the right is like, "No, the only thing I will accept is Bud Light ceasing to exist." It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Then the woke will seize that institution because you've rejected it.
100%.
The successes of the right, like with Daily Wire, for instance, are that as the left falters in their control of institutions, the Daily Wire is seizing them. So are we going to be like the Daily Wire starts making movies? They're making Snow White. Would we be like, Snow White's done. They ruined it. No, Daily Wire's like, no, we're going to make Snow White, we're going to do it better. That's a good argument for conservative dad's ultra-right beer or whatever. Disney is going to start backtracking. Jeremy Boring said, if Disney switches over and gets rid of all the woke stuff, he's like, people ask me, what would I do if Disney tomorrow abandoned all the woke stuff and returned to the classics? I'd say, oh, we won. Mm-hmm. That was the point. If they won't, then we take over. But at a certain point, you have to declare your victories where you can.
What's Disney's stock at, I wonder?
Probably growing. All right, well, let's read some more. We got Tim Jake says, Phil and Tim, what do you think it says about the music industry when the #1 song on Billboard Hot 100 is a Christmas song released in 1958?
It's
Rockin'
Christmas
Around
Time.
the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee.
It says it's Christmas time.
Right now?
Well, if it's #1 right now, and what it says is it's Christmas time. That's why people are listening to it.
No, that's what does it say to me? It says that our culture died.
It's celebrating a staple of our culture. It's a Christmas song.
In 1958, a song was written.
Yeah.
When that now what was the last one that actually charted?
All I Want for Christmas is
1994.
That's an updated version, but Christmas songs are timeless. They're not like, it's not one of those things where like
They wrote the song in 1958.
that's fine.
You realize that the song was new.
Yes, I'm not.
So As a cohesive, unified country, we have not come together in agreement on a cultural tradition since then. Now, I don't mean literally. I'm saying All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Was it 94 or something?
I'm not sure, but it's
the last great Christmas song is Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson, and it's like 8 years ago.
But that's not even that big.
But it's a great song. But I agree with you. Christmas songs are rarely good if they're not old.
And the point is,
that was probably 94 was probably the last great old.
The United States was unified in the creation of Christmas music and with religious themes.
Yeah.
Holy Night, or well, that's not a Christmas song, but all the like Jingle Bell Rock, all these songs.
Here comes Santa Claus. The last verse is "Let's give thanks to the Lord above," because Santa Claus comes tonight.
From that, our culture has expanded and grown and has become unable to unify around a new Christmas song.
Well, I don't disagree with any of the points you're making. I think that
Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
I think part of the reason why the U.S. hasn't been able to come together over a new Christmas song or whatever is because religion generally has fallen out of favor and society is much more cynical and stuff.
This is my point.
But yeah. Like I said, I agree with you.
We used to have a unified culture where someone would be like, I wrote here a Christmas tune. I hope you like it. Number one, bang. And now for 70 years, it's been a number one or top 10 song every Christmas. We don't have someone today being like, what's up, yo? I wrote a Christmas rap. And then hitting a number one Christmas song.
Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC is a great song.
Yeah, I was going to say, Run DMC did a Christmas song.
Yes. Christmas time in Hollis, Queens, Mama's making chicken and collard greens.
Right. But my
Two
point,
towns over from where I grew
my point
up.
is we rarely make new things culturally. They're reboots, they're remakes. It's
Yes.
cultural stagnation. And another example is a better example. We were over at Long Shots in a pool hall in West Virginia. You guys should check it out if you're in the area. It's a fun place. And I go in the jukebox. I put on Bohemian Rhapsody. What happens?
Everyone starts singing.
Everyone in the bar, there's like 30, 40 people. Everyone's singing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I put on modern rock. Everybody goes about their business.
Yeah. Well, there's something about classics that makes them classic.
Well,
but
we used to be unified, more so, and now we are fragmenting.
yeah, but there's also something about unique classics that are iconic. Bohemian Rhapsody is iconic, right?
What song from the past year could I play that everyone in the bar would sing?
I haven't listened to the radio. Well,
Past 10
country
years.
station. I'll
Maybe
try that in a small town.
no.
Everyone
Maybe
will-
Taylor Swift.
I don't know a thing.
Lil
she
Nas
sings.
X, the horses in the bag.
I have no idea. I don't know that one.
Old Town Road.
Old Town Road.
Yeah, that's probably something, and that's probably because of kids falling in love with it.
Yeah.
but that's probably the most recent
Yeah.
song.
Not a
where
great
people would-
song either. It's
I
really-
actually don't think Taylor Swift is a song that the entire bar would sing because like the target demo is like 16-year-old girls.
No.
So it's widely popular and she's massive. Metallica,
And Pfizer. That's the
yeah,
other
like
audience.
Metallica, but like Enter Sandman might get a lot of people going. But what are we talking about? What year was that? Was it 89?
1993,
93.
92 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you play Billy Joel's Piano Man, everyone will start singing.
80s.
Uptown Girl.
You've lost
80s.
that love and feeling. Everyone. I mean, there
80s.
are some songs of. Yeah.
I think I get your point though, because there's not a lot of stuff in the past, say 20 years that's really going to get everybody.
Yeah. The
singing along.
90s was the last decade.
Yeah. So.
And there are people who are just like, I am not making the argument the 90s was good. I'm saying that the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s are discernible time periods with fashion and music.
Yeah.
And after the 90s, everything became a blurred splotch.
That is why I was convinced people made such a huge deal about the death of Matthew Perry. Not because they loved the show Friends, not because they particularly loved or knew him, but because the death of Matthew Perry was the beginning of the death of the 90s. And that was a show that everybody watched before cell phones, before internet, before online pornography. Friends was like the last moment of innocence. And so a lot of 39-year-olds, Matthew Perry died, or 25-year-olds, and they were like, that's it, childhood is over. That was the last decade.
All right. Red Rumax says there's a post on Reddit from a liberal arts student saying she is broke but wants to manifest herself a millionaire having lunch with Bill Gates and Bezos. Yeah.
Ew.
Manifesting. These are people who are going to be like, society will collapse and they'll be sitting around being like, I'm going to manifest food, and then they will starve.
You know what manifesting is?
No, I don't know.
Manifesting
I don't
is
know what that-
praying for people that don't believe in a God. It's just they say manifest. They're like, I'm going to manifest, which means I'm going to send out positive vibes into
they
the
think
universe.
they are God.
Yeah, I can just think.
So when she says I want to manifest Jeff Bezos means like I want
Will
I
it
don't
into
know.
existence.
Yes, manifest means if you focus on it, you will make it happen for you.
Oh, that's how it works.
And there is a physical reality to this. If every day I wake up and I focus on playing the guitar, I'll get really good at guitar. And guess what? You might find yourself in a successful band. But the idea that you can sit there and not play your guitar and just like envision playing the guitar and that will get you somewhere ain't going to happen.
No.
That's what these people think.
Holy crap.
Manifesting. Yep.
Where's Ian?
Gotta manifest the fence line tomorrow to make sure no trees fell on it. Huh?
Flavor says the U.S. has crossed the event horizon into a debt spiral. 40% of our income tax goes to $1 trillion on interest owed. Please get Preston Pish or Jeff Booth on the show. Hyperinflation happens gradually, then suddenly. Learn or be doomed.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, and I'm not giving anybody advice, but I got Bitcoin, so and gold.
Fox did
Do
it.
you see the central banks are buying tons of gold like crazy?
Yeah.
Gold's
China.
Gold's like $2,020,
Gold's at like an all-time
$29.
high.
China
Yeah.
bought a ton of gold. I'm sorry. We won't get literal. China bought what, like 42 tons of gold or something like that, or 24.
Fox did a thing this morning, which I thought was fascinating. They showed Kevin when he went shopping in Home Alone, right? When he went to the grocery store, what he spent and what
Was
it
it
would cost.
$19?
It was 19, like 68. He had a $20 bill. He got some change. It was $65 in today's market.
Yeah, but in New York, there was an article about this a couple weeks ago. It was like $77 in New York, LA, and Chicago.
In
Smaller, yeah.
Has your wages gone up triple? Right? I mean, insane to think that that's how much inflation has gone up. And I would love to look at those prices in 2020 because it's gone up 20% since then. But
Dude, man, people don't pay attention. I posted this photo. We were in North Carolina, and I posted a picture of we bought chips, dip. Like mostly, it was like a couple drinks and like chips and dip, and it was like $100 something because we got salami chips, and it wasn't just chips and dip, but we got like hummus, some cheese dip, some chips, some crackers, and some meat. And it was 2 bags, half full, and it was $103. And I was like, what the? And then people were like, you faked this. It's not true. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We buy these salami packs. They're really good. We used to buy them all the time. We've been here for 3 years. And they were like $5. $5 for like 3 long things, and you peel it open, and it's got the resealable thing. And now they're $12.
yeah, and they're probably 12% smaller also. Yep. They put one less slice in and shrinkflation. And yeah, the fact that more people are not woke to food prices and food is very disconcerting.
All right. Frankie Lowe says education is a bigger racket than you think. College graduates are left without skills, so that way they are forced to enter grad school and learn the skills they should have learned in undergrad. Yes, technically, they should have learned most of these skills in grade school. For real. You know what I learned that school, I had several moments in my life where I realized school was a scam. And it was the one story I like to tell is when I was a little kid, my mom asked me what I learned when I was in school, and I said, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He discovered America. And she was like, well, he didn't discover America. There were people here already. And I went, oh, well, that's what they said at school. And she's like, well, that's not true. I mean, there were already people here. And besides, Leif Erikson got here 1,000 years before Columbus. And I was like, huh? Then why are they lying to me? I was pissed. But there was a couple other moments. But then one big one was, I didn't go to high school. I went to high school for like 2 months and then stopped going and did home correspondence, like homeschool. And it was because I started freshman year, and I remember like the first day they said we were going to have a lesson on interrogative sentences. And I was like, what? I was like, I know
That's an interrogative. Good.
I know what a question is. I learned that in kindergarten. Why am I now in freshman year of high school and they're teaching us literally the exact same things we were learning years and years ago? And then I asked people, and they were like, oh yeah. And then what really just ended it for me was I'm sitting in literature class. I'm 14. And the teacher is like, today we're going to read this story by Mark Twain or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And then he calls on a student to read. And the kid goes, on the first day of an encyclopedia, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Why am I sitting in this chair being forced to hear a kid who can't read at all? And I just stopped going. I lost it. I was walking to school. I was 14 one day and fell down, started crying. And then I got up, turned around and went home. And I was like, I will never go back in that building. And that was the end of it. That was it. I was done.
I tried to do that. My parents were like, nope, you're going back. And I'm like, why? This is so pointless. This is so ridiculous. This is so stupid. I'm not learning anything. And it was just brutal. I hated school.
When we started doing correspondence school, my brother and I were doing 2 weeks of public education per day. That's it. Because I think the average person is like, if human beings are given the opportunity to learn at the pace they want to learn, you can go even faster than that. It was just 2 was like, that's what we wanted to do.
Well, that's the overarching frustration I have with all these school board arguments we have and the teachers union nonsense is that, we need to talk about transgender issues in school. And you want to say your kids are functionally illiterate, right? Like 50% of them cannot even read, and the other 50% cannot read at grade level. And yet you want to have these silly conversations about transgenderism. They can't do arithmetic.
One of the things that we talked about the crisis of competency, and part of the reason is because when it comes to whether it be schools or whether it be businesses, when you have to focus on things like DEI and you're worried about teaching people the proper political perspective and stuff, then you have a certain portion of your productive capacity that's being eaten up by teaching people or dealing with things that have nothing to do with whatever it is that your endeavor is supposed to be doing, whether it be educating kids, building cars, whatever it is. If you have DEI in your business or in your school, then you have people that are occupying their entire day with things that are totally and completely unrelated to your whatever your business is. And those type of industries or those type of departments, they only tend to expand. They hire more people because they you find the things you're looking for. If you got a girlfriend that's looking for you to cheat, that's accusing you of cheating and stuff, eventually she's going to find something that confirms what she says, and you're going to have a big old fight. Enough for her to vent the frustrations. And the same kind of thing
Serge is nodding his head extremely.
It's true. And that kind of stuff happens with DEI. They're looking for something. Someone, if your company has that kind of stuff, then someone will go ahead and say, look, I have this problem. And then DEI, they'll go ahead and be like, well, we need to find some, more people to deal with this stuff. It is a self, what's the word I'm looking for?
Perpetuating.
Self-perpetuating. Exactly. Yeah. And it's a massive problem for any industry or any endeavor that brings this on.
Yeah, and then the company has to automatically raise prices because you have to make up for that loss of productivity. Ask like a father-son mechanic shop if every Friday they have to close for diversity and sexual harassment training. You'd be like, well, then I have to charge more to fix cars Monday through Thursday because if I have to spend all day Friday, so your productivity is lost, so your prices increase, and now I'm paying more to get my car serviced because they're spending all day Friday in some woke seminar, and you just echo that across the whole economy, and here we are.
We're going to go to the members only show. So my friends, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com, click join us. The members only show is not so family friendly. I'm going to open it up with an offensive joke that I saw on Instagram, and it was by this female comic. We're always ragging on female comics, but this one's really good. And it uses a naughty word that YouTube doesn't like, so I'm going to play it for you guys. But smash the like button. Like I said, you can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Daniel, do you want to shout anything out?
Someone just reached out to me on Twitter and asked about, we're trying to keep solar farms out of our community. What's the most important arguments to do that? Send me a DM and I'll respond to you. This is part of my job, is to fight Big Green. It's great to be here. God bless America, and thanks for having me part of this conversation.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. That was a great conversation. My website is thebestpoliticalshow.com. Today we had James Lindsay. Tomorrow we are having Dave Smith on. I've been working really hard. Members of LukeUnfiltered.com get to call into the members area and into the show. I've done like 10 years worth of content and videos and do a lot of really extra things for members, all on LukeUnfiltered.com. That's the best way to support support me, and I can't thank you guys enough for doing so.
I forgot to give my sheep farm shout out. Sorry. Bristol Farm, Virginia, the preeminent sheep farm in all of Virginia. If you like sheep or want to buy sheep or wool or meat, Bristol Farm, Virginia. And there's great pictures of our sheep. We have very beautiful sheep.
Gentlemen, I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon Music, YouTube, the internet.
And I am Serge.com. Great show. Pleasure having you here always, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah, the after show.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.